before we get started, Jared, do you wanna say anything before we roll into letting Chris talk a bit?
So I've got the chat pulled up on my computer so I can actually read the comments.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, just basically just want to thank everybody for being a part of this video tonight. It's just kind of a quick get together, just kind of show everybody what's going on. Allow Chris and Jared and the rest of us kind of answer questions, kind of what was going on during the snow event, ice events, ice apocalypse, whatever y'all want to call it. This way, kind of we have a chance to answer questions and comments and kind of make it better for next time.
Awesome. So Chris, I'll let you do a quick intro, but after that, I've got the pre-submitted questions, so I can just sort of ask them, and you can give your take on those. But open it up. You can just kind of give us, the rundown of what you were up to last week.
Yeah. I feel like I've met most of the members, but there's a few out there I haven't. I am Christopher. I'm owner-operator of Christopher's Customs. I'm known for my service truck freight back here, and we worked this truck pretty hard last week, along with my Deuce and a Half, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Tonight I'm locked in 4x4 in custom shop. Owner-operator right here, Jared Brown, is with me. He's hiding out. So we do a lot of work together, and we try to do a lot of work for the Rocket City Wranglers, and anything we can do to help y'all out. But as far as talking about this last week, things that we've encountered, I learned a lot this last week. I don't know about the rest of y'all. This is not an environment that I'm really used to being in. It was very different. I do travel up to Buffalo, New York quite often. My wife is from there. But up there's 24/7 plows and road equipment out there keeping the roads cleared. And this was definitely a different situation in which we had to learn a lot on the fly. So, how did the Wranglers do as a whole is handling it? Because I know I got a lot of phone calls from people that were driving to the EMS response, or just basic people in the club, or my clientele, of experiencing some different problems here and there. Most of those I saw in the questionnaire. So if you want to go over like that, Chad, we can.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything's been touched on except for the wiper dilemma. I have four customers right now in which I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that. John's pretty handy with a wrench. He has already changed out the wiper motor and switch himself and has not fixed the problem. And beyond my diagnostics on the other three, it looks like if the wipers actually freeze to the windshield, it does cause circuit damage to the tip-ons. So I guess from here on out, that's something we need to think about, is if we do have an ice situation on these Wranglers, we need to actually break the wiper free from the windshield before turning them on, because it is actually causing electrical, like circuit burnings. That's the only thing that I've really encountered that I'm still trying to figure out. Hopefully we don't have to replace tip-ons, because that is an expensive process. Jared's on that as well. What's that?
If you park your Jeep outside, should you leave your wipers, pointing up, like out, like you raise them up to wash it, or should you leave them down?
I have mixed emotions about that. I don't think it's going to do anything to keep them from freezing to the glass. It's rare, but I have seen the potential that if you leave them sticking out, that they could fall and hit the glass and cause it to break. And it is best for the computers if they actually go back to park. So if you shut it off and the wipers are up, if you turn the ignition on, those wipers are stuck, it could cause damage beforehand. So I would make sure to leave the wipers turned off so they're in a park position, and go out there and physically with your hands pry them up from the glass and make sure that they are free before trying to operate them. That's the only way I can see to keep from having this problem happening again. And we're still trying to figure out exactly what it's going to take to repair them. We have many to do from that.
Got it. Okay. Well, let's just roll into the questions here. I've got them all printed out.
Let's go for it.
So the first one is, should you air down in the snow? And then what about ice? So under what conditions should you air down, not air down? I know that was posted in the Rocket City Wranglers Facebook group, and we had a pretty good discussion about it. So what is your take on airing down?
I believe every situation is going to be different. I've noticed from a lot of people I cross paths with, plus some vehicles I've had in the past, that the weight of the vehicle will matter, the type of tire that you're running, even the amount of sidewall. So this is something that each person probably just needs to experiment with on their own and see what performs the best on their vehicle. It may take a little bit of time. As far as snow situation, there's so much involved with that. The weight of your vehicle, the actual width of the tire, the actual contact patch that you have is going to vary. Some situations you'd be better off being having a higher inflation and actually punching through the snow where you can make contact with pavement. And others, you may not be able to do that. You may need to air down to get as much contact patch as possible for traction. And I feel like that's totally just going to be on the type of tire that you're running, the weight of your vehicle, and just your condition. It's just something you may just have to experiment every time you go out.
Understood. I know you have the ability in your new douche and a half to air up and air down on the fly, so you were able to kind of experiment in real time. Can you tell us how did your vehicle perform doing that?
Of course, the dynamics of a 20,000-pound truck is a bit different than a Wrangler, but I did find that when it was snow, leaving the tires inflated was actually getting me traction onto the pavement. But once it iced over, it's called sand mode. It really airs the tires down and get a real squishy contact patch of the tire, and that really helped with traction once the ice hit. So,
Awesome.
like I said,
Okay.
it was a unique advantage because I could just push a button and play with it rather than having run circles with an inflator.
All right, cool. All right, let's keep rolling down so we also have time for people to post questions after we get through all the ones that we were pre-submitted. So here we go. Hopefully this is a fast one. Should you use lockers in snow or ice?
I'm going to say no.
I agree. I think the only time you want to use lockers is if you're off the road and trying to get back on the road, and you get to a spot where you have zero traction to one wheel, and that's the only way to get back up on the road. But I think during driving normal conditions, absolutely not.
Yeah, I will agree to that. Drift cars have welded rear ends. They are locked, and that kind of says it in itself. If you want to keep from going sideways, you need to keep that differential open. To get out of the ditch, absolutely lock it and get out of there.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so now we're talking about snow socks and chains. So what are snow socks, and how do they compare to chains, and do we need them?
I'm going to say the socks on a Jeep, probably not, for two reasons. One, most everybody with a Jeep is already running some type of all-terrain or mud-terrain tire. So you're not really going to get improved traction over you would like a passenger car tire. The other one, I just sort of briefly looked them up. I don't think anybody makes anything big enough to really fit an off-road tire. It seems like that is a really good advantage for passenger cars. And I did encounter several of them. Little front-wheel drive cars had the socks on that were doing amazing in the snow and the ice. I just don't know that that's an option for the 4x4 community.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think to add to that, durability of the sock. So if you don't know what a sock is, it's literally just a sleeve that fits over the top of around the exterior of the tire. That basically just kind of helps with traction. But the durability of the sock itself, if you drive on it much, you will wear holes in it and start ripping it. I mean, it's just fabric. That's all it is. So the durability of the sock is going to be a challenge versus the chains. And something we need to look into. I haven't actually heard one way or the other, and I'm leaning towards it's fine. Certain states have laws against running chains on the roadways. So they limit that to fire trucks or EMS or police cars or something of that sort. Normal passenger vehicles are not allowed to run chains, but I don't think that's the case here in Alabama. And of course, on the opposite side of the snow sock, the chains themselves are much more durable, but they do they will wear a hole or tear up the roads if you're driving on them for more than just a short period of time.
Right. Now, once we had the iced over conditions, chains did make a huge difference. Um, I didn't have chains big enough to fit anything I have currently, but I've run them in the past, and I did encounter a lot of people who had chains, and I saw two-wheel drive pickup trucks moving around pretty well with them. So, I mean, chains, if you got to be out in it, it could be a valuable option.
I'm seeing some, there are some questions or just comments in the chat. So I see Mike Nichols and Sean Clever are all kind of chiming
Yeah,
in.
somebody said they saw an XXL that fit a 31.
Oh, that was an XX.
XXL, yeah.
I saw
didn't
the
see
same
it.
thing.
I
I
didn't see
immediately looked up
it.
snow socks myself, and I saw that the triple XL, I think the one I was looking at was 33 inches or something like that.
Yeah, that was the only
So-
downside I really saw to the socks. I was really impressed with seeing them running around on some of the front wheel drive cars, though. They really did seem to help.
So Holly just confirmed that snow chains are allowed in winter during ice storms in the state of Alabama, Huntsville. So she did confirm that. But
Okay. Yeah. Another thing is the snow cables. They're not really any different. They're just a cable instead of a chain. Sometimes they are a little easier on the tread. Like if you don't want to chew a groove into your tire, the cables can be a little easier on the actual tire.
Some other alternatives I've seen are straight up zip ties just wrapped around the tire, and then you have the little small sections that fit patches over the tire, and both of those solutions are garbage. Zip ties will snap right off, and so are the little grip pad. They're just going to fall right off, and they're going to do absolutely nothing for you. So if you're looking at those and you see it, just save your money and don't even try it.
I did have a gentleman stop and assist me. There was an intersection that had multiple vehicles piled up, and he jumped out with a huge thing of zip ties, and he put 2-3 zip ties on the front wheel, and the cars would back out, go down the road, and the zip ties would blow off. So they look like they're just enough to get them out of the ditch, but yeah, you're not going to go anywhere with them.
Yeah, I think in a pinch they might help, but longevity of it is not going to be there either. So.
Right. Yeah, like I said, they get out of the ditch, and as soon as they hit the road, they were gone.
All right. I think that there was only one question I saw out of the corner of my eye that basically said if you only have a pair of snow chains or snow cables or something, and you're running in four-wheel drive, which you put them on the rear or put them on the front?
I would probably put them on the rear because that's your main drive. Then you're going to shift the front end for steering.
It doesn't matter the direction up front if you can't go anywhere.
You're right.
Yep, I was going to say the same. You always want them on your driving wheels. So if you have a front-wheel drive car, put them on the front. If you have a rear-wheel drive vehicle, put them on the rear.
Yep. Your primary drive. Yep.
All right. Let's move on. Next question is, what type of tire and tread works the best in snow or ice? You got mud terrains, all terrains. Of course, you got highway type tires. You've got pizza cutters that are more narrow. You've got 13.5 inches wide. What has the biggest impact on traction on snow and ice?
Biggest thing would actually be a winter tire, and they'll be advertised, and it's called a SIP or site. If you actually look in the tread, you'll see they have little cuts in them, and they come that way from the factory. That is going to be an all-weather tire, and it's about the only thing you're going to get any type of traction on ice. Now, outside of that, mud tires actually do pretty good in loose snow. Once you get ice, they're garbage because you've got these little cleats trying to walk on the ice, and they're just not going to grip. So, like I said, advantages and disadvantages to all your conditions. You just got to know your vehicle, know your tire.
Got it. Okay. Moving on, oil coolers. So it seems like we have quite a few posts talking about broken oil coolers.
Yep.
And I think you replaced a few over the past couple of weeks, and certainly done a whole bunch over your life. And so the main question is, why are they breaking? Have you noticed any trends in, what potentially causes them to break versus being in a garage or left out in the driveway, hot, cold starts, et cetera? So any insight on that? Yeah,
I'm starting to see some patterns developing with them. It is It is a plastic housing. Jared grabbed one from here. So if anybody's not ever seen one before, it is actual plastic housing. It's got little O-rings in the bottom. And I've seen these fail multiple different ways. If your antifreeze is not mixed properly and you have too high of a ratio of water, the ice will expand and I mean, it breaks mountains in half. It's going to split this plastic somewhere. So I mean, I've seen them lift off the flange and destroy the seals, or just absolutely break in half. The ones I've seen broken in half recently, it seems like the perfect recipe for that is having the vehicle in a garage where it's heated, remote start this thing, let it get really hot. You open the garage door, back it out to the extreme cold, and they blow in half. That kind of surprised me, but I ran across 3 of them that did just that. They didn't even make it to their mailbox. So I would have thought the cold itself would have done it, but apparently going from operating temperature directly to cold can affect them. The other ones I saw, they're sleeping outside, and they probably just didn't have the ratio right for their antifreeze. And I believe they just froze and split.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Seen several radiator damage. Same thing. You got aluminum cores with a plastic tank, and ice gets in there and just splits them in half. A couple split plastic thermostats. So I mean, ice is going to expand. So wherever there's ice in your coolant system, it's going to break something.
So how do you check your coolant
Gotcha.
to make sure it's correct? You got a hygrometer? And then we'll talk about the aluminum housing.
Hydrometer. So this little thing's real simple. You just squeeze the bulb, suck the antifreeze in there. It's got a little level. You level it out. Coolant comes up and it moves this needle in here, and it'll tell you what it's good for, whether it be negative 10, 20, 30, 40 degrees. So
You have some coolant stuff in there?
you can use that. Yeah, you got some coolant? All right, Jared's going to grab some coolant. We'll do a demo on this thing real quick. I know. I'm used to working out of a truck. Also, windshield washer fluid. There's summer and winter rates of this, and your windshield washer jug can freeze and bust. It can break the nozzles off the hood, the hoses going up to it. So you can check it with this too to make sure that it's not going to freeze. Jared's over there getting some antifreeze.
So what's the hygrometer cost?
It depends if you get a real fancy one or not. I mean, they're just a few bucks.
They're pretty cheap,
they're really
right?
nice ones. They're really nice ones, like $20.
No reason not to have one.
Right. So this is full strength out of a jug. So you try to level it up, and you can see the needle here. So full strength out of the jug, it's good to negative 45 degrees. And so neat, if you actually flip these around, it'll actually show you the boiling point. So water boils at 220, so you can keep bringing that up. So that way you're not boiling it out of the radiator. So it actually works for hot and cold.
Awesome. Okay. And so, yeah, the next question is, what replacement, when you break it, what replacement do you recommend?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of those. I will say this is this is the Made in America. I've tried some of the other brands, and honestly, I've had to warranty all of them. So this is the only thing I install now.
That's the only thing I use. I had to warranty one for you too.
Yeah, Jared's the same way. This is the full kit. It's a pretty neat kit. It's all aluminum, and it actually has a larger cooler on it. So it's like this much bigger, but still, it's that much more cooling.
Cool. And so, yeah, so that there's like you said, you see those aluminum coolers available online and Amazon pretty cheap, but you basically steer clear of those and stick with the Dorman unit. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I tried it, try to keep customer, prices down for my customers because they are substantially cheaper than the Dorman. And it's just not worth it when you have to deal with that heartache twice. So I just don't even install them anymore.
If you decide to try to buy one by yourself, there are some listings that will show replacement for Dorman, this part number, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper. It is not the same thing.
Yeah, counterfeit. Well, we have run into counterfeits. The real ones will actually say on the bottom that they are Dorman and U.S. made.
And so it's about how much do those cost, just so we get a ballpark if we're shopping for them, we know we're looking at real ones and not knockoffs.
I've seen them from 260 to 300.
Yeah, they're 300-ish.
Yeah. So if you see one for $100, it's probably not a dormant, right?
Yeah, if you're getting an oil cooler installed for anything under $400, they're using the cheapest thing they can find.
Yeah, it's all labor and it's like a $40 part.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So oil coolers, replacement oil cooler. Okay. So driving in snow and ice, can you just give us a feel for when should we be in two-wheel drive versus four high versus four low?
Gotcha. So going into four high doesn't change anything in your gear ratio. It just engages the front axle, giving you basically twice the traction that you had in two-wheel drive. And so if your back tires are spinning, it is time to go into four-wheel drive. I normally recommend, like, if you realize you're slipping just a little bit, go ahead and shift in. The extra traction is just safety. You're going to be fine. Now, as far as going into four low is not going to do anything with helping you get traction. That is a gear reduction. It makes your vehicle a lot more powerful and a whole lot slower. But it's not actually going to do anything for you as far as traction, snow, ice, mud, that type thing. Four low is for hard pulling or hard climbing. So if anybody's familiar with like the Rubicon package, most of your standard Jeep Wranglers are a 2-to-1 gear reduction, and the Rubicon packages, I think, hobby is a 4-to-1.
Right. I think most of our sport transfer cases are 2.73 to 1 transfer ratio, and then 4-to-1 for the Rubicon. Yep. So what's your opinion versus, some people stay in two-wheel drive and then they'll put it to four high whenever they slip, and then they'll go back to two high versus just staying in four high, kind of in a mixed traction environment where it's still a lot of ice out, but potentially some places where there's good traction. Could you damage your vehicle by leaving it in four high, especially if you're encountering roadways that are, have ice that has melted and you get better traction?
So the second gen YJs, the TJs, most of your Cherokees and all your JKs, they have a live axle in the front anyways. I mean, it's hooked up all the time. It's operating all the time. You're just not getting power to it, so you engage transfer case. Now, the new process transfer cases that they all run are shift on the fly units. It meshes well. It's fine. You can be going down the road and just gently pull the lever back and engage it into and out of four-wheel, two-wheel high, basically at will. They're designed to do that. Now, four low is a whole nother episode. You got to come to a complete stop and pull it out of neutral. But no, there's nothing wrong with shifting in and out of two-wheel, four-wheel high while you're moving. And now, if you are in a situation where your back tires are spinning and the front are not, you need to come to a complete stop before you try to put it in the four-wheel drive, because if you transfer that energy, you will destroy a transfer case.
Gotcha. So you're right. So if you're rolling and all your wheels are moving at about the same speed, you can go ahead and safely shift into four high. But like you said, if you're stationary and your wheels are spinning, then don't attempt to shift into four high while your wheels are spinning. Boom. Like you said, your transfer case blows up.
Yeah. And
So that's gonna lead. So to answer your question, a lot of people, because of that, if you're spinning in two-wheel drive, you don't want to shift in four, right? So it would be somewhat better to have it in four to begin with and drive it that four high the whole time. Personal preference, me, I would rather be in two-wheel drive until it's needed, just so that you don't have power to those rolling assemblies until it's needed. But I also, most of my four-wheeling is on locked hubs that you have to disconnect or unlock and lock in to begin with. So it was a little bit different scenario for me. But most Jeeps, yeah, the shift on the fly is a lot easier. And personal preference, I'd rather go from two into four and then back into two whenever I need to. But for safety, I'd agree, leave it in four high.
Yeah, you're not going to mess anything up by leaving it in four high. What is the fastest speed you think you should be driving if you're in four high?
So in all reality, the way that they're designed now, with the way the gears are cut and everything, you could technically drive one as fast as the vehicle is capable of. But if you're in a loss of traction situation in which you're having to use four-wheel drive, there's no need to push those limits.
I do believe it's recommended under 55 in the book, I think.
Yeah, if you look
Yeah,
at it, no design to
Yeah. I think each year, each model has a different kind of spec, if you will. But yeah, I think that the mechanism for damage in 4 high has been greatly reduced. I guess the more modern the vehicle, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I was going to say the speed's around 50, but
I'm not going over 50 in 4 high. That's for sure.
I'm not going to be doing much more than 10
yeah,
or 15.
if I need that much traction due to a condition, there's no need to go that fast.
Yep.
Right. Yep. That's pretty good. I like that. Let's see here. Let me check the chat. No, nothing new there. Now, one thing I did notice, of course, if you're in 4 high and you're making a turn, then you can still feel your front end kind of push because of the different turning speeds of the front and rear wheels, and they're locked together basically through the transfer case. So if you're in 4-wheel drive and you're trying to make a sharp turn at low speeds, you will, if you have traction, you'll feel that front end pushing, right, Chris? Is that kind of what's going on there?
Right, yeah, you will, because that front end's been put live. And the U-joint ones, some of the newer models have CV joints in them, so you won't feel that as much.
Okay.
Like the Grand Cherokees, things like that. I mean, they're all-wheel drive. You're locking in a ratio difference within a transfer case, but the front end's moving all the time. So yes, you will when you're turning. Most straight axle vehicles with a U-joint front end, you will feel some feedback to the steering wheel on a hard turn.
Yep. Awesome. All right, let's move on down the line here. Let's see, max speed, we talked about that. Okay, are there any maintenance or inspections that you should do leading up to a snow event, and then potentially after it's gone past it? So what do you do before and after to kind of prepare and then wind down from these events?
Yeah. So leading up would probably be making sure you have your antifreeze correct. Just taking a hydrometer, making sure that you're with tolerance for the conditions you're about to be into. Because, like I said, ice can break an engine in half. So that's probably the biggest one. Wash your tanks. Not something to really think about a lot, but there's going to be several of those replaced from people that just had no antifreeze in their windshield washers. Basically, other than that, nothing that you wouldn't check outside of normal, unless you're running a diesel truck. I know some of the new Wranglers and the Gladiators and Renegades are diesels. You need to put an anti-gel in your fuel. Diesel will get thick, so thick that it can't pump.
That's good to know. I'll add that, just from a safety perspective, just normal cold weather preparedness, if you're going to be driving out in it, is have extra food, water, blankets, jackets, boots, prepared to potentially be stuck or having to walk in cold weather. Don't hop in your vehicle in flip flops and shorts and go for a joyride, right? Be prepared for most of those outcomes, and I think it's especially important if we're potentially trying to help somebody and transport them, that we kind of have those provisions on hand just in case.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that just be general maintenance as a whole. It's not so much just cold weather. It's making sure your tires are in good condition. That you've got plenty of tread. There's no. I will say this: dry rotted tires, if they get cold, they will get hard and they can't separate. So if you have a very old tire showing cracking, if it gets real cold, that tire may just break. The only time I really see that are these guys that got the good old farm Jeeps, and they don't ever leave the farm until it snows, and then they go a little faster than you used to, and got a big flat spot, and the tire literally breaks in half.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the chat back up for me, and it kind of left.
Yeah, we're good. It's just discussion on CVs. So.
Got it. Okay, good. Okay. And the only other thing I think I would add is after a snow and ice event, it's probably a good idea to try to wash off all the salts off the bottom of your Jeep. So I like to throw a sprinkler under my Jeep and let it just sit for a little while. But
yeah, rinse out what you can.
Yeah.
I know some guys up north, my brother-in-law and some of them, There's some oil compounds you can spray under fender wells and suspension components, or they just use tire shine. They just silicone them up, just trying to keep it from sticking.
Yeah. Fluid film. I use fluid film.
I've heard a lot of people using WD-40 also.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know
Anything that kind of helps keep stuff from sticking. So
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Okay, so someone asks, are there any kind of exercises or practice that I can do in my vehicle to be better prepared to drive on snow and ice?
I would say the most comparable you get used to probably just be real slick mud. As much as I hate it,
I would
I
feel
don't
like
like I don't like getting in mud. It's hard on bearings. It's hard on seals, but it's part of it. Sometimes if you could just get in real slick mud and just kind of learn what's going to happen if it's going to get sideways on you, how to get it back, and
right.
how your vehicle is going to handle differently between 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive. A lot of that's basically just going to come down to experience and just getting out there and being patient.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I really do feel like a lot of seat time off road does at least prepare you for how your vehicle may respond in just loss of traction situations or going up or down steep hills and things like that. So I'd say that if you want to be better prepared for driving on snow and ice, then go off road and go to Stony this weekend. Maybe not this weekend, but Stony Lonesome is an off-road park locally that's kind of notorious for mud, especially after it rains. So that's yeah, that probably gets you the closest thing. Let's see. I think someone who posted a question. Snow related. Oh, all right. That's good. So yeah, go ahead and ask the question in the chat. We're actually getting to the bottom of our sort of pre-asked questions. So I think we can easily fill the few that are in the live chat. So, okay. So what are some driving techniques that I can use in snow and ice? How can I drive safely in snow or ice? What kind of things can I do?
Slow down. I mean, you got to kind of know when to go and when not to. Momentum, laws of physics. If you're in motion, you're going to stay in motion. So if you need to get up a hill, you probably just need to go on up over it. If you're coming to a stop, you need to start stopping way before you get to where you're going. That's just basic laws of physics. Momentum is going to pull you. That's another thing, just with experience, and every vehicle is going to be a little different. Like I said, I saw a lot of different tires perform in different ways, and just weights of vehicles and whatnot. If anybody tried this out, let me know. I ran across a gentleman who said he was actually using his hill descent button to come to stops to keep from sliding.
I use an exhaust brake.
And yeah, I mean, I thought that was really clever, and it makes sense to me. I've not done it myself, but I thought that was kind of a neat little trick.
yeah, something to add to that. Talking about hills, you want to try not to get stopped on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're approaching a red light that is uphill, you want to kind of definitely slow down well before the hill even starts. That way you can get momentum to get back up the hill and not stop in the middle or right at the intersection going up that hill. That way you can keep your momentum going.
Yeah. And this is just, from us being out off-roading and being in slick environments, a lot of times you learn to steer with the throttle. If you get into a brake and you start sliding, it don't matter which direction you cut your wheels, you're not going to turn until they roll again. And you just got to learn to let off that brake and sometimes just accelerate through it. But that's just going to be a feel and experience thing.
Yeah, I heard someone say you want to treat it like you got your grandma in the back seat holding a
bowl of gravy or whatever, right?
Yeah, something
Right.
something hot from a crock pot or something on the way to church. So you
I
just
see
want
an
to keep
instance here. I see an
keep it
instance here asking about the e-brake. That's going to be an absolute no. That's going back to drift car stuff. If you want to throw the rear end around, yes, pull the e-brake. Because e-brake is strictly for the rear tires, and if you lock the rear end and you're on ice, you're just going to be like a little kid locking the chain brakes on a bicycle. You're going to go down.
Yeah. I see Sean, saying he brought up the fact that you can, if you're in manual, you can downshift to help slow yourself down. So slow yourself with the engine. Well, a lot of our automatics have that same option, right? You can do manual mode in a JK, and I assume the JLs have the same option. And I don't know about the auto TJs, but
You just
yeah,
got
you
to be
can.
careful with that because you don't want to downshift at a high speed and have your wheels break loose and put yourself into a slide.
Sure.
So you just got to be careful with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you kind of have to know your vehicle and know what speed you're rolling at, and know that if you put it into manual. Now I know my JK, if I hit it into manual, it goes right into whatever gear it was already in, right? So if I'm rolling in fourth gear and I hit that manual, it pops up and stays in fourth, and then I can slow down. But yeah, you're right. If you then downshift it too soon, right, you gotta know that and do a little bit, know your vehicle if you're going to try to employ that for sure. Yep. There's a question about recovery and CB. We'll get to that at the end there, Ben. I see that question. In fact, but that's some good topics for our 101 Jeep 101 event that's coming up at the end of February. We can still talk about it a little bit, but if you new Jeepers are highly recommended to go to our 101 event coming up at Truckers Warehouse.
Yep. So Tim, Charity Weaver, we saw your question on a 2020 Rubicon with lift and tires. Just go through. Realistically, you're about on par with anybody else around the area that goes off-roading. But if you want more information on that, the 101 class next month will definitely be a good source of information for you to have some one-on-one, as well as some definite pinpointed questions that you want to ask. So that'd be a great class for you there.
Did Adam make it tonight? He's the lead tech over at Truckers Warehouse. He said he was going to try to make this call tonight, but I've not seen him pop up.
I think the issue was he's not actually in our Facebook group, and so he doesn't have access to the live. And I tried to get synced up earlier today, but we couldn't close the loop. So but he will definitely have a good opportunity when the Truckers Warehouse is hosting the 101 event. Chime in with us. So I still want to talk about the driving technique. So I think a lot of us grew up hearing that if we're sliding, we're supposed to pump the brakes, right? But that's no longer a thing if you have ABS, right? So can you talk about how to brake on the snow and ice with ABS, or if you don't have ABS?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, if the wheels are locked, you're going to go into slide position, and it doesn't matter which direction your tires are pointed, you're going to just keep sliding in which direction of momentum. So I mean, if you're sliding left, you can cut as hard right as you want. If the tires are sliding, you're not going to move. So pumping a brake does make a difference. Sometimes it helps even pumping with ABS because the ABS may engage too quickly. A lot of times it will help slow you down, but if you're losing direction, a lot of times it is best to just let out of that brake and change direction before you try to get into it again.
Yeah. So if you're really losing control and changing direction, right? So that's where you're taking off the brake, trying to get your wheels rolling again. That's where you steer with throttle, trying to get out of that. But yeah, I was experimenting. So there's opportunity, to experiment with our vehicle some. So I was out there on the ice, and if I was in an open area, kind of safe, I would jam the brakes kind of hard just to see how the vehicle would react, see how the ABS would react. And honestly, the ABS worked pretty well for me. I noticed it seemed to keep me relatively straight and bring me to a stop in slick conditions that I was at least experimenting with, and the speeds I was at. It seemed to do its job, but I was not in an uncontrolled spin going around a curve or anything either. So. I saw someone, I think it was Adam, asking how to disable ABS forever.
Buying a vehicle? Yeah.
Look, the next to last question I have here is, what kind of cold weather equipment or supply should I keep my big? We actually went over this a little bit, but one thing that I found super handy was to have a box of hot hands in my Jeep, because man, those things will work in a pinch. If you're getting cold, I love hot hands. So crack them open and you'll get your hands and feet, whatever, warm. So there's my shout out to hot hands. That's if you don't have some of those, I highly recommend them. I use them all the time when we're off road. My little 6-year-old puts them in her shoes when we're in the Jeep because I refuse to put the doors on. Things like that. Okay, the last one I think is pretty good. And I saw someone ask in the chat earlier. So can you talk about how, we all want to help and if we see a vehicle that's potentially in a ditch and we have some, a winch or an ability to recover them, what's the best way to help recover a vehicle, especially a more, a modern vehicle or a car that doesn't necessarily have obvious recovery points like we're so used to dealing with on our Jeeps?
Gotcha. So I think the biggest thing is when you approach a situation to kind of evaluate your situation. I think as off-roaders, we're already prepared for the extreme stuck because we're known for teetering on rocks and, burying into the frame and the bumpers. A lot of these scenarios I ran into was somebody just needed to move just a very few inches to get them out. And I always had somebody riding with me, and there seemed to be other people around. A good bit of time, we were able just by hand, just push them enough to get them out. The zip tie trick actually did pretty good. So a lot of front-wheel drive cars throw 2-3 zip ties on the front tires. They'll bite enough to get out, and then zip ties blow off, and they're going down the road. You got to be real careful hooking to these newer cars. I'll show you why here in just a second. These are alternatives I found actually a lot quicker than pulling a winch and all, because a lot of these slide off the road situations were not that bad anyways. The traction boards, anybody's familiar with these? Now you see the Overlander guys riding around with these dudes strapped on the hood or whatever all the time. If somebody's down in the ditch, you could throw this underneath the drive tire and they'd back out like that. And it's so much quicker than trying to pull a winch or hook up or a strap. Now, I did find out with these, if they're in dirt, they're in grass, throw this down where the board can actually bite the ground. If you throw this on top of ice, a Honda Civic will throw this through a car door. So just keep that in mind. Like if the board itself doesn't have something to track to, the car will actually throw it. It's very good. So once again, that's a condition thing. But yeah, these were great. You can just jump out, toss them underneath the car. They most time just back out and go. Now if it comes down to winching on the newer cars.
That's where PD litter and sand and salt, stuff like that come in handy.
Yeah, you'd be
Just
surprised.
anything to give a little bit of extra traction.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what a handful of broken sticks or some gravel would do. Just anything you find on the side of the road for traction. Like I said, most of the time these cars, they're only stuck by 6 or 8 inches. They're not like we're used to doing and burying one. Now it actually comes, you're going to hook a winch to one or you're going to pull with a strap. Most of the European cars on the front bumper will have a little plastic plug. It looks like there's a sensor or something there. You pop that out. Then you go back to the trunk and there'll be a thread-in eyelet. They're normally about this long, got an eye on the end of it. You thread it in and it gives you a pull point. I know pretty much all the German cars have that I've encountered, and looks like most of the Kias did. Most of the Koreans I ran across had that as well. A lot of the domestic cars did not, so go figure that one. On the bottoms of them, there is a hook point, front and rear, on all 4 corners of these cars. And it is a reinforced oval. Now, these cars don't have frames, they're unibodied, but would consider it the frame underneath the vehicle. And this oval is an odd size. You're not going to get a basic hook into it. There's a special hook for this. I have one because I do this a lot, if nobody's ever seen one. This is like a tow truck multi-tool. This does all types of stuff. But the one I'm actually talking about is this little hook here. You hook it into this oval until the flats touch, and then it actually gives you a secure pull point on a unibody car. So not everybody's going to have these. Not many people do. You will see these hanging out on the back of rollbacks. If you ever walk by a tow truck, you will see this chain, and that's what it's made for. Because this type of hook will not bite into those cars. Another thing, you do not really want to hook to suspension components on these because you can cause a lot of damage to somebody's vehicle. That's why I really encourage, if you can push it out, get a traction board, something like that. These vehicles are not made to be pulled on with these big, heavy, recovery points that we have on our 4x4s. And they're not full framed vehicles like our 4x4s. They're layers and layers of sheet metal put together, and you can rip one. You can really do some damage, if not total somebody's vehicle if you're trying to help.
So that's a good point there, Chris. That definitely don't want to do any extra damage to a vehicle if you're trying to help recover it. So I didn't do any this year, but last year when we had the snowstorm come through, I was literally walking up and down 72, just walking, and would have somebody on the side of the road that would lost traction and was literally behind them and pushing them. And just giving a little bit of extra momentum to get them going was enough to get them off the road. I'd say probably 25, 30 vehicles that I pushed out of the road was that case. So just that little bit of extra momentum, extra shove, even if you need to get an extra set of hands on it, is better sometimes than actually trying to hook up a winch or a kinetic rope as what's going on in the chat right now. Anything like that. So just an extra set of hands is usually all you need.
Right. Yeah, a kinetic rope would, if you're going to be pulling, would cause less damage because you're not going to jerk the vehicle. It's not something you really want to do anyways. You can do a lot of damage to your vehicle and theirs if you're snatching on a chain or a solid strap. So if they need to be bumped, like you got to jog them loose, definitely don't do it with anything other than a kinetic strap. Another one while we're pulling about it. A lot of people have been pulling out of ditches using the front bumper of their Jeep. And this, with the way the gears are made in these, with a crush sleeve setup, you actually destroy the gears in your Jeep if you pull hard in reverse. They're not designed for that. We're used to seeing our grandpas do it in the old F-150s, but the way the gears were built in those vehicles were different. They didn't have a crush sleeve. And basically what it is the way the gears are cut. Actually, Jared set some over here. I'll try to show you. The gears are cut at an angle. And when you're pulling down the road, this actually keeps the gears into their seat. It's a race for a bearing, but it actually keeps it seated and in place. When you throw it in reverse, this will actually pull away. And when it pulls away, here you go, Jared. Thank you. There's this crush sleeve. That's exactly what it is. It crushes. You see how it's buckled in the middle. If you get hard traction and you're pulling really hard in reverse, you crush this sleeve flat, and then the spacing of your bearings is messed up, and then you just destroyed your entire gear set. So if you're going to pull with your Jeep, do it from the back. Trailer hitch is on the back for a reason. You can pull pretty much as hard as you want in going forward, but pulling backwards, don't do it. If you do need to go from the front, go stationary and you let your winch do the work. Another thing with that, use a winch as a winch. Don't use it as a self-retracting strap. You can jerk those and destroy the gearbox and the winch. A good Warren or Ramsey, I don't care how expensive they are, you can't break the transmission and your actual winch doing that. This is just, it's stuff I've run across through the years, some weird stuff I've run across within the last week.
Awesome. And yeah, there's some good points in the chat. No big questions yet, other than just soft shackles are good if you're trying to hook up to things, so you're not, not damaging. Talking about how to hold your Jeep, hold the brake if you're using a winch. It's pretty good stuff. But again, a lot of these things are more basic, not basic, but more general off-roading and recovery stuff that we will be talking about in about exactly 1 month from now. So please mark your calendar, February 24th. We still got, so that was the end of the questions that we pulled out that people had already asked. And we've got just shy of 10 minutes left to make this thing right in an hour. So if we want to monitor the chat for a couple questions, go ahead and drop them in there. Holly asked one from Suzanne Cooper. It says, what speed can you go from 2 to 4 high on the fly? And the same going back to two-wheel drive. I think we kind of addressed that as you need to be rolling, and you can do it at basically, any of these that we deem sort of safe speeds in 4 high. So 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour. All of those should be safe to move into and out of 4 high and two-wheel drive. Is that okay?
Yeah, the big thing is just be confident that all 4 of your tires are going the same speed. If you've got one wheel spinning and the others are not, you can cause damage trying to shift in.
Right.
If you're in a situation where you can't get all the wheels to roll, come to a stop. And then obviously they're all going the same speed. They're not. And then shift it in and try again.
Right. And that does bring up a good point. Yeah, I think you mentioned earlier that you were seeing people that were breaking their shift linkages because they were trying to shift into 4-high at a complete stop when the gear wasn't aligned and you needed to move at least a little bit to allow that to slip in. So if your shifter is not easy to move or relatively easy to move into 4-high, then it helps to roll just a little bit, or even I'm big enough to rock my Jeep just by my body.
Grab your 4-wheel drive shifter, your transfer case shifter, put a good firm pressure on it back. Don't jerk it, just pull back and let the vehicle just creep forward just a little bit, and most of the time they'll pop right in.
Yep, exactly. So someone asked, don't know about Jeep, but my Toyota with an electronic shift will not actuate into, above. Okay, so he was just pointing out that if you don't have a physical linkage to get it into 4-high and you rely on electronics, then there may be a electronic speed limit. So yeah, that's all vehicle and owner manual specific on any of that stuff. So that's a good point, though. So.
Yeah, and the Toyotas are awesome, but they're different animals. Like everything about them works a little bit different.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. I know we can go till 8 o'clock asking questions. I would recommend having if you still have questions, to go ahead and post in the chat or down below in the event, and we'll answer them as we can. With that being said, Chris, Jared, do y'all have any last remarks y'all want to add to the group as a whole?
I don't think so. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to hit me up on my Facebook page, or call me. My number's on there. You can call Jared at Locked In. We're there trying to help everybody out. So feel free to contact us. We don't mind. I try to tell all my customers I'm on the road a lot. I'm driving a service truck. So if I don't answer, just be patient. Shoot me a text message and I'll call you back when I'm not moving.
Awesome. Well, I know I appreciate it. Looks like we had at least 50 to 60 people throughout the whole hour-long live. So I think that's really awesome. Seems like people were engaged and enjoyed this discussion. So I really appreciate it. I know everyone else does too. So big thank you to Chris and Jared for taking this time tonight, man.
It was a big turnout. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you all the people that paid attention and sat through this with us and asked questions. So appreciate y'all as well.
Awesome. See you guys.
There you go. Thank you.